Sometimes a simple good morning in the elevator hides the beginning of a story that could change lives. What if I told you that an ordinary young man without fame or fortune transformed the last days of a forgotten lady into an unforgettable chapter in humanity? It sounds like a scene from a movie, but it's real, and you'll understand why. We live in an age where haste stifles empathy, and the elderly are often left aside as if they were turned pages. But this moving story proves the opposite, that true friendship, love for one's neighbor, and care for the elderly still have space in this noisy world. Here you will meet Lucas, the boy from 504, and Donna Olivia, the lady from 702. And get ready, you will be moved. If you've ever wondered if a simple action can change a life, or several, stay until the end. This story that became a book and then exciting movie is more than inspiring. It is a powerful reminder that overcoming and humanity can be born from the connection between generations, and that sometimes life writes its best scripts on the most unlikely pages. Lucas grew up among the old walls and narrow corridors of the Solar das Palmeiras building, a simple place where every creak of the elevator seemed to have a story. Since he was 12, after losing his parents, that place became his shelter. Over time, he learned to live with silence and absence, finding solace in the small routines of the building. Being an orphan so young made him mature quickly, but it also taught him to perceive the pain of others, even when it is silent. It was on a random afternoon, in the elevator that insisted on stopping between floors, that he met Donna Olivia, the lady from 702, 90 years old, wearing a flowery dress, eyes full of the past, and an elegance that could not be explained by her clothes, but by the way she looked at the world. The encounter, even if brief, sparked something in Lucas, because sometimes everything starts with a look that sees beyond appearances, a kind of connection between generations that dispenses words. That old elevator, witness to so many silences, became the scene of an unlikely beginning. A young man takes care of elderly woman? Not yet. But there was the first step of an exciting story, one of those that shows that even in buildings forgotten on the outside, what matters is who lives inside. And as you will see, when two lonely hearts meet, even time starts to beat differently. What began as a timid impulse, "I made too much coffee, would you like a cup?" turned into an unexpected link between two worlds. Lucas, accustomed to the solitary routine, came down with 2 cups and some cookies, without knowing that this simple gesture would be the first chapter of a rare friendship. Love for your neighbor, you don't need big speeches. Sometimes you just need hot coffee and a sincere ear. At the entrance, sitting side by side, time seemed to slow down. Their conversations began timidly, revolving around the weather, childhood, and ancient authors. But soon the exchanges gained depth. She revealed memories with sweetness and pain, and he listened with rare attention. True friendship that was born there was not in a hurry. It had presence. And more than that, it had space to welcome pain and memory. Donna Olivia confided hard truths naturally: cancer, family abandonment, oblivion. Lucas, with a heavy heart, discovered their abandoned lady, but full of life, and she, in turn, saw in that reserved young man an affection that she thought was impossible at 90 years old. It is at this point that connection between generations becomes a bridge of healing, and you will see that coffee was just the beginning. At each new meeting, Donna Olivia revealed pieces of herself. She spoke of the husband she lost when she was young, her passion for Fernando Pessoa, the classroom she loved so much, but she also confessed deep pain, the children who had moved away, her growing loneliness, the feeling of having become invisible. And there, on that bench in the lobby or on the sofa in apartment 504, she rediscovered something she thought she had lost: the right to be heard and loved. Lucas, in turn, found himself changing roles without realizing it. The neighbor became a confidant. The confidant became a caregiver. Soon, his routine began to revolve around her. Sunday lunches, old movies on cold nights, shared reading in the dim light. It was the kind of care for the elderly that cannot be bought or imposed. It is born from empathy, constant presence, and sincere listening. Seeing the sparkle in Olivia's eyes when she received simple flowers or heard an old song was more than a reward. It was a sign that something sacred was being restored. She, who had been left aside, found in Lucas her last chance to live with dignity, and he, who grew up an orphan, discovered that caring for someone was also a way of being healed. You will be moved because it is impossible not to recognize here the value of silent surrender. It was in the hospital, next to a cold chair, that Lucas heard the news that hurt like a punch. Donna Olivia's cancer had returned, aggressive, in her lungs. The treatment was expensive, limited, and hope seemed to slip through his fingers. But when she said, with a sad smile, that she just didn't want to die alone, he knew he had to do something. He couldn't cure her, but he could fight for her. Back at the apartment, Lucas did what he knew how to do. He wrote from the heart. He created a solidarity fundraiser, posted a simple photo, told the story without embellishments. He spoke of Donna Olivia, of abandoned lady who now lived with him, of the dream of allowing her to face the disease with dignity. And what came next was unbelievable. Within hours, the internet was mobilized. Shares, messages, donations. The story touched something deep in people. In less than a week, more than $90,000 was raised. People donated books, medicines, blankets. The hashtag Poor Olivia went viral. And there it became clear there is still room for empathy and compassion, even in such rushed times. Lucas saw, in practice, that when love is sincere and pain is real, the world listens and responds. A true story based on real events which rekindles faith in humanity. The impact went beyond what Lucas could have ever imagined. What started as a simple post took on a life of its own. The hashtag Poor Olivia took over social media, transforming the story of a forgotten lady and an ordinary boy into a symbol of love and resistance. The commotion was so great that radio stations, local newspapers and TV programs began to tell this story. Exciting story. It didn't take long for influencers and celebrities to share the post. And the best part, it wasn't because of engagement, it was because of genuine emotion. Comments like, "This story made me call my grandmother," or "It reminded me of the teacher who marked my childhood," appeared by the thousands. The connection was clear. Because stories that touch the heart have this power, they pull us back to what really matters. Faced with so much affection, Lucas began to receive letters, supplies, and even proposals to turn the story into a book. But more than that, he understood that there was something bigger there, overcoming and humanity that went beyond the walls of the Solar das Palmeiras building. It was as if Donna Olivia, with her delicacy and courage, had woken up the world, and the world, finally, was listening. With the resources of Solidarity Fundraiser, Lucas was able to ensure the best possible treatment for Donna Olivia: physiotherapy, medication, consultations with specialists, and immunotherapy sessions. But deep down, what was most healing was the environment. It was the tea prepared with care, the room decorated with fresh flowers, the books on the bedside table. There, what was offered went far beyond medicine. It was dignity in the form of affection, that one abandoned lady found, in the details of everyday life, the chance to relive. She read passages from her favorite authors to Lucas, smiled when she heard old songs on the radio, and was moved by the films that marked her youth. It was as if each day was a gentle farewell, but also a silent celebration of life, a last chapter written with tenderness and respect by someone who chose care instead of ignoring. And that's exactly where the strength of this lies. Exciting story. It's not just about facing an illness, it's about overcoming oblivion. Olivia lived her last days surrounded by love, attention, and meaning. She, who feared leaving alone, found in Lucas's arms a new way of existing, and perhaps the most beautiful of all, because when there is love for one's neighbor, even the farewell takes on meaning. Donna Olivia's absence filled the apartment with a different silence, not of loneliness, but of longing. The objects remained in place, the folded blanket, the old radio, the books with pencil markings, but it was in the notebooks that Lucas found solace. Every sentence he had recorded, every written memory, was as if she was still there, telling her own story through his voice. That's how the book was born. At first it was just an unpretentious draft, but word by word it began to take shape. The title came naturally, The Lady of 702, Memories of a Care That Became Love. And there it all was, the true friendship, the daily care, the coffees, the movies, the last days lived with sweetness. A book that did not speak of death, but of humanity. And that, when it was released, touched hearts throughout the country. The impact was immediate. Teachers adopted it as required reading, NGOs were inspired by its message, readers cried at the end of each chapter. It was without a doubt an exciting book, but more than that it was a reminder. Real stories, when written with soul, become bridges between generations. And this story not only preserved the memory of Donna Olivia, but also lit a flame in thousands of readers. A flame that says, you will be moved. As in one of those endings that life itself writes better than any scriptwriter, the book caught the attention of a film producer. The phone call came as a surprise. We want to turn this story into a film. Lucas could hardly believe it, but there was a certainty in his chest. Donna Olivia from somewhere was smiling, and so the story that became a book would also become an exciting movie. The production was done with care and fidelity. The building was recreated in detail. Apartment 504, the sofa, the old radio, the notebooks on the table, everything as it was. When Lucas saw the actress playing Olivia wearing the same flowery dress, he cried, because it wasn't just fiction. It was truth, memory, love transformed into art. In the final scene, with her looking at the sky and saying, "Blue, it's still blue," the movie theater went silent. All that could be heard was the sound of sobbing. The film, called 702, moved crowds. It received awards, was shown at international festivals, but most importantly, it inspired action. Projects such as Adopt a Grandpa, reading groups for the elderly, campaigns to visit nursing homes. It was more than a box office success. It was a collective call to action, empathy and compassion. Because in the end, this story based on real events reminded the world that loving is also caring, and that cinema can be a bridge to becoming and humanity. Fame was never his goal. Lucas continued to live in the same building, now in apartment 702, Donna Olivia's old home. He carefully redid the decor, the flowers on the balcony, the light curtains dancing in the wind. The old radio still playing songs she loved. It was there in that space full of memories that he wrote, without rushing, without pretense, only with the sincere desire to keep alive a story that transformed him. The letters kept coming. People thanked him, told their own stories, sent photos, poems. Some said, "You saved my faith in humanity." Others, "I will never ignore an old man in the elevator again." And that is why Lucas writes. Not for recognition, but because he understands in his soul that real stories with surprising endings have power. Power to unite, power to heal, power to make the world remember that to love is to care. Today, when he feels homesick, and he always does, Lucas goes up to the terrace of Sola das Palmeiras. He looks up at the sky, and with a discreet smile, he repeats what she said last morning. Blue is still blue. It is a whisper that crosses time, a tribute and a reminder to all of us. Even when everything seems cloudy, love leaves traces that illuminate. You will be moved, not just with the ending, but with what this story awakens in you. And now, after following this story to the end, tell me, how many Donna Olivias are out there, waiting for someone to see them? How many Lucas have yet to discover the power that exists in a simple gesture, like a shared coffee or an attentive ear? This story goes beyond a book or a movie. It is an invitation, A call for you to look around and realize that to love is to care, and that caring is transforming. Maybe you know someone like Donna Olivia. Maybe at some point you were like Lucas, afraid to love, but with a heart ready to welcome. So I ask you, who can you hug today? Who needs you to remind them that the sky is still blue? If this story touched your heart, like this video, share it with someone special and subscribe to the channel. Write in the comments, what was the most exciting moment for you? Have you ever experienced something similar? We want to hear from you.